In my last video, I analysed every Premier League team and gave my thoughts on who I think the player of the season was for each team. I'm now going to do the same for the Championship. So, to reiterate, this is just my opinion. If you support a team that are in the Championship, leave in the comments below who you think your player of the season was. So, let's begin. Let's start with Barnsley at the bottom of the league. Now, they have had a horrific season. To put into context how bad their season has been, they finished below Derby County, who had a minus 21 point deduction. So to go from 5th to bottom of the league, basically they've done an opposite of Huddersfield Town. So Barnsley have had a horrific season, but they've still got a number of players who I think certainly are Championship quality, and certainly who I would take at Reading, the likes of Carlton Morris, the striker, Callum Styles, Britton. But for me, I think their player of the season has been Heerlich. When he plays, Barnsley just look better defensively, and I think he's been their best player personally. Next for Darby. Now, Darby, yes, they've been relegated, but they had a minus 21 point deduction. The way that Rooney was able to motivate the players has been phenomenal, and the spirit around, Derby itself, but at the football club as well, has been really promising for Derby fans. So I think actually they'll do quite well next season. But in terms of the season just gone, you've got the likes of Byrne perhaps, who's done pretty well, and then maybe Ryan Alsop at times. Also shout out Curtis Davis, who, in his mid-30s has played every game in the Championship. But for me, I think their player of the season has been Tom Lawrence. Then for Peterborough, there's one real obvious candidate, and that's Jonson Clarke-Harris. Now, I think Peterborough will keep the majority of their squad next season, but Jonson Clarke-Harris will almost certainly leave. Then we have Reading, my team. Now, it's not been a very good season, but you've still got some really good players there. The likes of Lucas João, Yadom, Josh Laurent have all had really good seasons. But for me, the clear player of the season is John Swift. Especially during the first half of the season, he was excellent. And it's sad to see him leave on a free transfer, but he's given 6 years of service to the club and overall has been a really, really promising signing. So I can't begrudge him for a move to West Brom, who are a bigger club, where he'll be on more money and have a lot more of a higher chance of getting promoted to the Premier League than at Reading. So fair play John Swift. I think he was the player of the season at Reading. Then we have Birmingham. Now Birmingham, they've had a horrific season. Off the pitch, they've got a lot of issues. There's still kind of question marks as to whether Lee Bowyer is going to be manager next season. For me, I think their player of the season is Scott Hogan, but it's not that obvious. You've got the likes of Pedersen, who's been great defensively, although he's almost certainly going to leave on a free transfer. Then you potentially have maybe Neil Etheridge, possibly, but you're kind of clutching at straws. I will say, though, that the January signings of Ono Hernandez and Lyle Taylor were very good. I would just think Hogan's been a little bit more consistent across the whole season. For Hull, this guy won Young Player of the Season, Supporters Player of the Season, and Players Player of the Season. The Iron Robin, the opposite Iron Robin of the Championship, Keane Lewis-Potter. I say opposite because he is right-footed and plays on the left wing. Opposite. Yeah, I don't know why I had a blank there. Yeah, he's the opposite Iron Robin of the Championship. He's been linked with a move to West Ham. I think that's a relatively sensible signing for West Ham potentially, because Bowen, I don't think he'll necessarily leave this summer, but maybe next summer, after one more season at West Ham, he could leave. So Keane Lewis-Potter might be good to get him at West Ham now, and then West Ham can prepare him to get more game time the season after. So Keane Lewis-Potter, he's almost certainly going to leave Hull. Yes, Hull have got new owners, and they'll probably invest heavily in the squad, but I still imagine that Lewis-Potter will leave. Then we have Cardiff, who they've got a very young team, and they've already made a number of signings, actually. The likes of Ebu Adams, who really stands out, who I think will be a good signing. I think Flint has been their player of the season. He's got 6 goals and 6 clean sheets as well when he's been playing. And look, Cardiff haven't been great defensively at times, but Flint is their one of their main centre-backs. And actually, right up there in terms of goal scorers for Cardiff. So I would say Flint is probably their player of the season. For Bristol City, it's clear, isn't it? Andreas Weimann, over 20 goal contributions. Fantastic season for him. One of his best seasons in English football. He's been really good as that kind of player just in behind Martin and Semenyo, who both themselves have been very good. But yeah, Weimann, exceptional season from him. Blackpool, Josh Bowler. Blackpool as a club have had a brilliant season back in the Championship, and Josh Bowler's been at the heart of it. The moment that really stands out for me personally is when Josh Bowler scored that late winner away against Stoke, where Blackpool played really well. So yeah, Josh Bowler, fantastic season for him. Also, his goal against Reading at home was very, very good. For Swansea, it's definitely Joel Peru. His first season in English football, 28 goal contributions, a fantastic season from him. Brilliant, brilliant player, and Swansea will be looking to keep him for next season. But as signing for £2 million, brilliant business from Swansea. Then for Stoke, it's Jacob Brown. Is by far and away his standout season in his career. Stoke as a club again have underperformed somewhat because they've just kind of languished in mid-table, and there's still question marks as to whether Michael O'Neill should be in charge next season. I personally think maybe he should be given a chance because it's still a decent manager, but if he doesn't start well, then there'll be serious questions asked of him. I do think Stoke will improve from this position. It seems like a lot of Championship YouTubers and people online say that Stoke are going to finish in the top 6 or at least the top 10 and don't. But I do get a feeling because Tyrese Campbell was injured for so much of the season and he's such a good player. So if they can keep him fit and add a few more additions, then maybe Stoke can really push on. Also, the impact of Lewis Baker in January has been really good. He's a very, very good midfielder for them. Then we have Preston. I mean, it's got to be Emil Rees, right? His first proper season in English football, 16 goals, I believe. Fantastic season from him. But also, shout out Ben Whiteman, who is very good in midfield, and Everson in goal. Preston will definitely be looking to get Everson back again on loan next season. Also, the impact of Cameron Archer shouldn't be forgotten. He was really good for them from January, and then hopefully Preston fans can well, not maybe Preston fans convince him, but hopefully Preston as a club can convince Archer to come back next season. Coventry, similar to Blackpool, I guess they're not a newly promoted club, I know, but they're still relatively new in the Championship. And they've been absolutely brilliant, playing some fantastic football. Mark Robins is an excellent manager, taking them from League 2 all the way to the Championship and competing, very, very well in the Championship. Gohrez, for me, is my player of the season, but you've got the likes of Ben Hamer, Callum O'Hare and Matt Godden. And you wonder, if Coventry can keep those 4 attacking players and maybe improve defensively, could they finish in the top 6? QPR, now for them, for so long in the season, they were excellent, but they fell off a cliff towards the end. I would say Ilias Chair's probably been their player of the season, but I think Willock up front is a phenomenal player. I definitely think he'll play in the Premier League in a few years' time. And Rob Dickie as well at the back is excellent. Especially during the first half of the season, he was brilliant for QPR and certainly one of the standout defenders in the Championship. For West Brom, they've had a really bad season given the fact that they've got parachute payments and they're a newly relegated club. They're just so boring and at times they really struggled for goals. But in a team that has struggled for goals, Carlin Grant getting 24 goal contributions and only 4 of them being penalties is pretty decent. Signing Swift will definitely help West Brom next season in terms of creating chances. However, West Brom, I think, still need to sign a few more players if they're going to maintain a top 6 push next season. Millwall, so strong defensively. Jake Cooper, Hutchinson, Murray Wallace, all excellent defensively. Also, McNamara at right wing back has been brilliant for Millwall. For me, though, I think it's an attacking player for Benik Afobe to get player of the season. He's really done well to revitalise his career on loan from Stoke at Millwall. But like I said, defensively, Millwall have been excellent, especially the likes of Murray Wallace. Blackburn, there's only really one player, Ben Brereton Diaz, for their player of the season. And yes, he didn't do that much this calendar year. However, you can't deny the impact he had in 2021. It's been brilliant from him. I definitely think that he'll probably move on just because he's now only got 1 year left on his contract and I'm sure Blackburn will want to cash in on him. So yeah, Diaz, he's definitely earned his move away from Blackburn, but he's been brilliant for them. Also though, shout out Joe Rothwell. He's such a Rolls Royce of a midfielder in the Championship, but he'll be a massive loss for Blackburn next season. Then it's Middlesbrough. Not too many standouts, but one thing I'll say for Middlesbrough is as a team, they're excellent. And yes, their fans will be disappointed that they lost away from home against Preston on the last day of the season. However, next season, I think they've got loads of reasons why they could be hopeful for next season. The main one really being Chris Wilder. However, for a long part of the second half of the season, Middlesbrough basically had the same team and then changed 2 strikers week in, week out. So for me, it's clear for Middlesbrough that all they need to do in the summer transfer window is bring in 2 new strikers and then probably replace Joe Lumley, because I don't think he's quite good enough for a top 6 Championship club. However, for this season, I would say McNair's probably been their best player for Middlesbrough. He's so versatile, isn't he? He can play at right centre-back, in midfield, even do a job at wing-back role. So I would say McNair's probably Middlesbrough's player of the season, but also shout out Isaiah Jones and Johnny Howson. Johnny Howson, similar to McNair, is so versatile. And then Isaiah Jones, in his first proper season in the Championship, he's been excellent in that wing-back role. Luton, Carl Naismith, fantastic player. Similar to McNair and Howson, he's extremely versatile. Even more so, I would arguably say that he's probably the most versatile player in the Championship. The number of clean sheets he has and goals and goal contributions and chances that he creates from mainly playing in such a defensive role has been phenomenal from him and Luton, to be fair. So Naismith for me is their player of the season, but also shout out Elijah Adebayo and Akornic up front. They're both really good strikers. For Sheffield United, the obvious choice, right? Morgan Gibbs-White, a brilliant, brilliant player. I know he hasn't got too much experience in the Premier League with Wolves. However, I definitely think now he's ready to make that transition to a Premier League footballer and play consistently for Wolves. I saw in The Athletic that Tim Spires, the Wolves Athletic correspondent, explaining that Morgan Gibbs-White is going to play more of a predominant role for Wolves next season, and I'm not surprised because I think Wolves at times have struggled to create chances, especially towards the second half of the season, and they could really do with someone like Morgan Gibbs-White to help Wolves create those chances. So for Sheffield United, he is the clear shout for player of the season. For Forest, you've got so many players that have played well. Jed Spence, even Brice Samba, the 3 centre-backs in McKenna, Cook and Worrell have been so consistent. For me, I would give their player of the season to Brennan Johnson. He's their top scorer with 19 goals, and he's not even predominantly a striker. He's, I would say, more of actually a winger, but he can do a really good job up front. So I would say Brennan Johnson's their player of the season, but I mean, look, Jed Spence has been just as good, and you could easily make a case for him being Forest's player of the season. Also, shout out to Forest for getting promoted to the Premier League. Congratulations to you guys. Then, for Huddersfield, Nichols, right? For Nichols to come in and keep so many clean sheets for Huddersfield, he's been absolutely fantastic for them. I would say he's their player of the season, but also shout out to Sorba Thomas, who I think is the best set-piece taker in the Championship, and Lewis O'Brien in midfield is a fantastic box-to-box player, and I'll be very surprised if he's playing Championship football next season. Then you've got the top 2. Pretty obvious choices as well. Dominic Solanki. He's scored so many goals for Bournemouth this season, and if it wasn't for Mitrovic scoring over 40 goals, people would be talking more about Solanki, but he's been absolutely fantastic. Also, shout out Lloyd Kelly, who I think is one of the best centre-backs in the league, and also Zamuru and Anthony on that left-hand side were excellent for Bournemouth, especially at the beginning of the season when they had so many injuries. Also, I do have to shout out Travers, who got the most clean sheets in the Championship, and going into the season, I thought that Travers was going to be the main weak link for Bournemouth, but he actually turned out to be one of their better players. So, fair play to Travers. I would still, though, give their player of the season to Solanki. And then finally, who else for Fulham but for Alexander Mitrovic, breaking the Championship goal-scoring record, scoring over 40 goals. I think he finished on 43 goals in the end. Phenomenal season from Mitrovic. So, fair play to him. And for Fulham, you could, argue both Tim Ream and Adebayo were excellent for centre-backs for Fulham. Robinson, who I think is a brilliant left-back as well. Reed and Seri at times have been unplayable for Fulham. And then Cabano and Wilson and Carvalho, but all behind Mitrovic, were excellent. But yeah, Mitrovic is their player of the season, surely. And also, just a quick note, I think that Mitrovic and Solanki will both have really good seasons in the Premier League next season. Whether Fulham and Bournemouth stay up is another question, but I do think both Mitrovic and Solanki will do well for both their teams next season. So that's my review of each team and who I think their player of the season should be. If you support a Championship club or you just follow the Championship, leave in the comments below who you think your player of the season for each of the teams were. Thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Please like, subscribe, and leave your comments in the comment section below. And I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you very much.